Alright, so welcome back to Teaching Urban. Today I have my friend, former colleague, former classmate, Varrell, and we're going to talk about his experience in urban education. So, should I call you V, Mr. Eddie?
I think we should go with V, man. We're friends, so
Okay.
let's do it. What's the word I'm looking for? It means like genuine, authentic, right?
Yes,
Yeah, let's organic. There we go. That's exactly what I was looking for. Let's be organic.
Alright, so how did we meet?
We met when you transferred into Cortland, and
Coming back now.
yeah, you transferred in, and like I remember the guys were talking about you because they found you and you were trying to ball, and I was coaching the women's club team at the time, and then like they introduced me to you and was like, come out for tryouts, and then you came for tryouts.
Yeah, the rest is history, literally.
Yeah.
Alright, so we ended up again meeting up, 4 years later, 3 years later at
Like in Hume too. We've been friends the whole time, right? So it's not even like meeting up. It was more like we had the opportunity to work together as adults. What was that? Probably worked together for close to 5 years, right?
Yeah, 5 years. And in the beginning, you definitely were my mentor because I did have major challenges. Major challenges. Oh my gosh. I wanted to quit my first year.
No way.
I wanted to quit. Like, if it wasn't for you and Bailey, I would have been out.
I would have never known that.
Yeah.
It's good
So
to know.
it's good to have people in your corner when you're struggling, especially. So, tell me about your experience in urban education.
Well, I've been working in urban education now almost close to 10 years. I started out working at my old high school at Grand Street campus under Bernard McElwain, one of the greatest bosses I've ever had. Gotta plug him. And I was a substitute teacher, but I had like a bunch of duties, and one of them was like, the main one was being in the locker room during PE periods, like to make sure that nothing was going on while kids were getting changed. And that's kind of where I got my like foray into like dean work, because your job is to like maintain order and control, make sure no one is hurt and everyone is safe. It's like kids are getting robbed, beat up, cut in class, smoking weed, doing all kinds of bad things in the locker room. And I remember Max saying within 3 weeks of me being there was a huge change. So that's how I got my start, and it was definitely different. I was probably 23 at the time or so, 24. So like I was still in the same age group as those kids. Like I would see the kids that were in my neighborhood, they would be taking the 43 bus home with me, right? But I learned really early I needed to separate myself from that group. So I would stay at work later just so I wouldn't be on the bus with the kids who were going back to my neighborhood. I didn't want them to see me in the neighborhood. Like they would see me walking my dog and hanging out with the guys, and I would just be like, "What's up? Don't talk to me." Like I didn't want them to see me in the element. We're from the same place, and that's why I can relate to them. But I didn't want them to see me standing on the corner with my homeboys because that they knew as like their big homies, and I was like, "Yeah, but these are my people." So I learned very early on how I needed to separate that. And then like from Grand Street, I got to take a year off, kind of not by choice really, but also like it goes into urban education now, right? Like there's so many loopholes or obstacles that you have to get over in order to be working in the DOE. So like I was a sub teacher, but they made a new rule right as I got the job that if you worked over 40 days total in the school year, that you had to have 6 education credits. And my degrees, neither of them are in education or anything like directly related to them. But in where I'm at now, I'm on the student support side. Your degree could be in paint by numbers. If you know how to deal with people, you can do well at that job. If you care about people and their well-being, you can do well at that job. So I wound up not being able to work for a year at Grand Street. I finished up my grad degree, and I was supposed to work at Hume 2 the year they opened. They opened and realized we need a dean. Because, it's like, oh, these kids from the South Bronx in the poorest congressional district of the nation, they're going to go to charter school and none of their outside lives are going to affect them. Wrong. And then, you have a bunch of folks working there who just aren't ready for that world. And, you need someone who can, in the word of a dean, maintain order and, hold everyone to the same standard. So like Q2 by far was my biggest, accomplishment in education. Started off as a dean, got to work with two more of our colleagues who I'm sure you'll interview, Keyshawn and Shay, who are also my friends, and um, we got to do a lot of special things at Q2, help a lot of kids become the best versions of themselves, which is really what you do.
What do you think? So, what is your position now?
Well, currently, I just started a new job today, actually.
Congratulations.
Thank you. As a student advisor at Alternative High School.
So, at your former place of employment, tell me about some of the programs that you put together because it helped you, or you figured it really supported you managing students.
Yeah. So, one of the things that every school does it, right? When you put students on behavior contracts, right? But we didn't do that as much. That would be like a super duper last resort. We started doing check-ins super early with students who we knew were high flyers. But the number one thing we wanted to do, we wanted to engage those students. We didn't want to come in with the notion oh, you get in trouble all the time, you must be a jerk. It was well, no, I hear about you, but I'm going to judge you for what you show me. So we gave ourselves an opportunity to really meet with those kids, and something that I always wanted to do, which I'm going to do at my new job because it's more aligned with that, is I always wanted to do pre-interviews with our high-flying kids. So when students come in and they have some issues, let's talk about things that have gone on last school year during the summer that may affect how you behave going into this next school year. Because no one you ask how summer is, kids are going to say, oh, my summer was lit. What made your summer lit?
Right.
Did you really have a good summer? Because then when they start to unpack it, it's oh, well, actually, 3 of my boys got locked up. I broke up with my girl. I thought this other girl was pregnant. My moms and my pops been beefing all summer. And then it's they're going to bring all of that into the school year. And if you don't know that, then you won't understand why that kid is still acting out if they were one of your high flyers. So it gives them an opportunity to really feel like they belong and they're involved and somebody cares about what's going on with them. Something else that we did, we started YMI. So, we had our group in College Move, Men of Value and Excellence, cheap plug. So we started YMI at our school, the Young Male Initiative, without knowing that NYC had a YMI program, right? So we just did it on our own, and we really just brought together the guys of the school and tried to instill leadership qualities and bring out those leadership qualities that those guys had, because we felt it would make our jobs a little bit easier. It would give us an opportunity to not have to deal with the students from a place of dealing with their behaviors, but we wanted to help them become super duper young men who were great assets to their community. And a lot of those guys that were involved in YMI those first 2 years became those kind of guys. We didn't have guys fighting in school. We didn't have boy issues. And if we did, the guys that were in YMI dealt with it. They would bring those kids together. We're not doing this in here. It's not worth it. We're not fighting over this.
So what type of leadership opportunities did those students have that were participating in YMI?
So some of the things that we put together for them were we made them monitors at lunch. So they would come into the cafeteria. We would have them helping out with us, checking IDs when they came in. They would be at the line helping kids, get through the line orderly, making sure nobody was skipping. They would walk around the cafeteria cleaning up the caf. When we had issues, when we had people fighting, anything like that, those would be the kids actually wanting to break it up because they wanted to uphold the culture. And that's what I always said. You need to develop people who want to uphold the culture and know that the culture is just as important as everything else, and the kids have to believe in it. So they didn't want people fighting because it was that's not our school, that's not what we want to represent. So they would be the first ones running. They would help us mediate those situations. We also took them out of the building for a lot of things. We went to work with, we would go meet with some young people at other schools not far from us. We took them up into the neighborhood and introduced them to a lot of the local stores and things like that, so that they could be a student representative, if things were going on outside.
So what has been your major challenge in your position every year?
Every year has been different. But if I can say a few things that are consistent, I don't want to say it's teachers, but because the dean and teacher thing is so adversarial. It's like designed to be adversarial, right? But it's been hard to get people to understand what our role really is and what I think it is. And I think my definition of what a dean is, or what a culture person is, because deaning and culture are being put together, and they're two very different things.
Right.
But I think that it's been hard to get teachers to understand the work that we do and why it's important. So when the teacher calls a dean, they're expecting that, as soon as I call the dean, they're going to come get this kid. The kid is going to get pow pow. They're going to come back to my class and everything is going to be fine. That's not the case. And what they don't understand is when you call the deans who come into your room and remove a student and you don't deal with that situation, or you don't attempt to deal with that situation, you've already given up all the power. That kid will not respect anything you say for the rest of the year. You're better off fighting your battle with that kid for as long as you can.
I think you told me that in the beginning.
Did I really?
Yeah.
I probably did.
Like, sometimes you gotta step up. Like, in the beginning, I was left and right sending people out because I came from another charter school. The kids were well behaved, but literally it was a couple of blocks away.
Right.
So I couldn't understand, like, what is going on. It's not like I'm in a whole different borough or a different country.
Right.
But I couldn't take it at first.
Well, you know what it is? Like, I don't know the school you were at. There's one or two things I think of already. Did they screen their kids? Right?
No, but they did have a process to get them out like this.
They had a process to get them out quick, so students who couldn't comply, they were gone fast, right? But also, what was I about to say? I hate when that happens to me. I need that ginkgo biloba stuff. Do they screen their kids? And it's going to come back.
They had a lottery.
They had a lottery. Oh, just like us. Like, it was a public school. Oh, but also, like, was there a feeder system to their school? So, like, at our school, what was happening was we got kids that came from all over the place. So I remember looking around the cafeteria at times and saying, what is happening in middle schools that these ninth graders are coming here and, like, they're doing cartwheels in the lunchroom? And it's like, I couldn't understand it. Like, because I'm like, so no one told them they had to sit down and lunch in middle school? But then I spent 7 months working at a middle school, and, like, I was at an all-girls charter middle school, and it was almost militant. And I was like, this is why when they come to our school and we treat them like young adults and don't tell them that they need to sit down, but they can't run around. They stand in the corner and do flips because, like, they finally have freedom. And, like, that's not the way kids should be.
Yeah, the school I came from, it started in pre-K.
Oh, so they've been trained for this. They know they get up in the morning, they're gonna put on their black pants and blue shirt with their tie and sweater over it. On some days, maybe a blazer. If they don't do their homework, their mom is gonna get a call. Yep.
Yeah, but it really is important for teachers to find their ground in the classroom. What would you suggest to teachers, like, how they could better manage students, or what, like?
So I'm gonna take it back to all the way when I was in high school.
Okay.
My 11th grade English teacher, Miss Brightling, and I tell people to this day she's the best teacher I had. She taught me how to write, and, like, that's an invaluable skill. But she also, like, didn't allow me to do, like, the bare minimum. And I was on the honor roll in high school for 9 marking periods straight, and I didn't try hard at all. At all. So I went home and did my homework in, like, 7 minutes, and I was an honor roll kid. So she wouldn't allow me to do bare minimum to do that. And I wound up actually breaking her record, and I got a 100 in her class 1 marking period. Which she won't ever admit to, but I did. I saw the grade book. But on her first day of class, she's a brand new teacher, and she let us decide the rules of the classroom and what the norms were going to be in the classroom. And all these years later, she finally told me, she's like, by the way, you guys didn't decide anything. I talked you back into what I wanted you to do, but it just came from you, so it sounded right. And so it makes so much sense, especially with this generation of kids we have now. They should be a part of it, right? They oh yes, let's say they're entitled. Okay, but let's empower them, right? Tell me what your negotiables and non-negotiables are. What are your expectations for me every day when I walk into this classroom? Don't make them so stringent that you can't follow it, right? Now, I'll give them a personal anecdote about you. I remember one of yours was there's no gum chewing in class.
I got that from my charter before.
And I remember you were like, but they're chewing gum, and I was like, Raven, Are we really going to fight a battle over kids chewing gum in class, or are we going to worry about the things that are a little bit bigger, right? And I remember one of the students you sent out was like the top 5 kid in the grade.
I
like,
remember, I don't want to say her name.
Yeah, but I can say her name.
Little smarty, yeah.
Top 5 kid in the, it's like, this kid's never been sent out of a class. There's no reason for us to send him out of class. She could chew popcorn as long as it's not on the floor. And then I was like, but maybe what you should do is tell them, you can chew gum in my class, but if I find gum on my desk or under a desk on the floor, then nobody's chewing gum anymore. Right. You know, and so like I think that's realistic, right? Like I'm gonna give you an opportunity. If you mess it up, there's no more opportunity. So I think that's something that needs to happen. Like you need to give expectations. What are your negotiables and non-negotiables, and then like stick to that. You know, and the kids will meet the expectations you give them.
I'm so lenient now compared to when I walked into that first year, because like the first school I was in was so strict, like and the kids followed like no eating, no drinking, no gum chewing, no lateness. They didn't tolerate anything. So I mean, I feel like one of the major things was me building relationships with my students that made me better over the years.
Oh yeah, that's super key, right? Like you have to build relationships with your students, and there's some people that struggle with that, and that's understandable. You have to fake it till you make it your teacher. Every teacher has gone up there every day without the lesson plan completely done and said, you know what, I'm going to do this. You have to work on your craft of relationship building just as much as you work on how to do your differentiated learning. Because these, like, students are not going to, what's the quote? Another great teacher, John Zarcone, he's now a principal at Cortland High School. He said, no one cares how much you know, so they know how much you care. Right? So if you're a teacher and you're yelling at me, and I know you don't have a vested interest in me or my success, I'm yelling back at you, right? Because you're yelling at me out of a personal reason, not because you want the best for me. But if I know that you're yelling at me because you want the best for me, you're disappointed in me, like, and you don't even have to yell at that point. Like the words "I'm disappointed in you" will change everything, because you've developed that relationship where disappointment is realistic now.
I would say I haven't yelled in years. It's great. And then when I went to middle school, it changed. I yelled and I was like, I don't think it's going to.
Well, middle school is just a different
I was
world.
like, I haven't yelled in years, and I'm here for like a month. And I just yelled. Yeah. I'm not going home with a migraine every day. It's not happening.
I did 7 months of middle school, and I will say this. Whoever does middle school, they are saints. I did an all-girls middle school, so I have not seen as many tears in that 7 months of being in that school than I did in the other 9 years working in the school.
Wow.
Unreal. But there's no reason with a kid between the ages of 11 and 14. Like, even at the high school, I don't deal with freshmen. Too young for me. Right? Like, I'm just like, stop. Right? But what they get from me, what freshmen get from me, is very much like what you need in a dean. Very stern, very by the book. I take no nonsense. Right? Seniors, we sit down and we have regular conversations because that's where we are. Right? So, like, you have to know that battle. Like, you probably couldn't pay me enough money to go work in a middle school again.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy to
But salute to everyone who does. I appreciate you.
What about your experience with administration? Like, how do you implement the vision of the, like, through your work? How do you work with administrators?
Well, I think, let's be candid here, right? In order for me as a person working as a dean or working in culture to carry out the vision has to be clear.
Right.
You know, I've worked now with 2 principals who have not had clear visions of what they wanted their school to be. They changed on the fly. They changed based on what the numbers said. You have an ideal in the way you want your school to be, and you set that vision, everything goes back into it. So, you know, like, I may not be I'm the person that has been at odds with administrators a lot, right? Even though, like, I'm a fake low-key administrator, but, like, I've been at odds because...
Aren't you?
Yeah, not anymore. I'm just a guy at work now, right? But my last year I was on the leadership team, and like we had a full-blown argument one day, and I said, I'm here to, like, I'm loyal, right? I'm working for my team. But if there's no vision that connects all of us are fighting a different battle, right? So you have 7 people on the leadership team that all fighting 7 different wars, right? And so I'm like, what you think is important, I don't think is important. But if we have this overarching vision that brings everything back to it, I can't argue with you. If you tell me that I need to do this because it fits the vision, then you're absolutely right. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Let me fix what I'm doing. But if there's nothing there like that, then you can't do it. And the question is like, and this is the $1 million question, is how do you get administrators to realize that they're not articulating that vision well? How do they understand when it's not being there and like what it is? And you know, I'm different, right? So outside of working in education, I coach basketball. I know that as a coach, my niche is building culture, developing winning cultures. Every team that I've been to, we've increased our wins and our success on and off the court after my arrival, right? So let's talk about that Gompers. When I showed up, the team they had no wins and couldn't even put a roster together. And within my 2 years of being there, we were up to 6 wins and 2 games away from making the playoffs. And as much as I love those girls, they were not basketball players. They played basketball, and I was turning them into ball players, but they weren't basketball players. None of them are playing now, right? And I coach college basketball now, right? But they worked really hard, and we developed a winning culture. They all graduated. They all improved their grades. They all started coming to school on time, and they all played a part of a team sport, and it all went back into the culture. They knew what it was. They knew what was expected of them. They knew what was going to be frowned upon. And if you don't have that for your students at a school, if you don't have that for your teachers at a school and your staff members, then there's nothing that you can do to really, like, it has to be consistent. You have to know what it is.
I would say that I'm happy to be starting at a new school. Like, I'm gonna try to figure out a way to do that little spin-off that your teacher did, your high school teacher did, and allow them to create the rules, figure out how to spin it.
I mean, and also the thing about it too is like if they've participated in it, then you can hold them more accountable, right? Because like you came up with this, you said you could meet this expectation. I even questioned if you could meet this expectation, but you all said you could do it, and now you're not meeting it. So like, what do we do now?
So what role do parents and families play when you are, working with students?
That varies. Depends on the relationship. It depends on the relationship of the student and their family. So if you have very involved parents, then you need to make sure your parents those parents are involved when necessary. But like so if you have a kid who their mom is constantly calling you all the time, dad's calling you up at the school all the time, you can use that as leverage to always like make sure that kid is doing the right thing. But I think the secret to it is not using it, right? So, Raven, if you do this, what's going to happen? You're going to call my house. Okay, and if I call your house, what's going to happen? I'm going to get in trouble. They're going to take my Xbox for the next 3 weeks. What's today? Friday. Don't you really want to play Xbox this weekend? I need you to get back together. Stay focused. I don't want to have to call your house. But if you continue doing this, this, and this, I will have no choice but to do that. You will win so much with that kid because you've given them the biggest threat that they have. Like, I'm going to call your house, right? And so they're like, I don't want you to call my house. Thank you for giving me this chance. Let me go do my work. But now, if they continue with it, you got to make that call one time. And it has to be early if you know you have very involved parents because they're going to help you out and make sure you stay in constant communication with them. But now, on the flip side, there's definitely students who have no parental involvement, no family involvement. You have to start making your own relationship with those kids because, like, your word is going to sometimes be more than what their parents give, right? The parent actually might make it worse. Right? You call home, it's like, why you call my house? Da, 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 da. Now me and my mother had an argument, and she kicked me out, and now I got to go stay with my father, and I don't even like him. And they resent you, and they give you everything. Right? But then once you realize that about those kids, you deal with them like, yo, you're young adult, right? I'm not calling your mother because nothing's gonna happen. I'm not calling your father. You don't like them. So I'm gonna just deal with you.
So what are some activities that you would suggest to help teachers, even administration, build relationships with these students?
I think it starts and ends with 2 words. Good morning. Oh, it starts with those two words, right? Good morning changes everything. So in the last few years at the school, since I've been there, I've been down at scanning and morning admissions. And it's grown to where, like, I was saying good morning to my students and getting, 60-70% response in good morning back to, I had students coming in. We got handshakes in the morning. I got students that I check in with in the morning. That's a good morning. Students that wear shared campus, students that don't go to our school, as I'm walking in the morning, they're saying good morning to me before I get a chance to say good morning to them because they're used to me saying good morning. They don't know my name. They don't know what I do. They just know that I'm saying good morning, and sometimes I ask them how they're doing. And it infuriates me like no other to see students walk past other adults in the building and not have that adult say good morning. You're not too busy to acknowledge a student. You can build a school. It can be the fanciest thing in the world. If there's no students, you don't have a school.
Well, what is the best advice you would give someone who is struggling to build relationships? Where should they start?
If you are struggling to build relationships, I think the best thing to do is become vulnerable. Give them a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
You don't need to give them your whole life story, right? But think about as teachers, we do such a good job of like hiding our first name.
Yeah.
Right?
And our age. Yep.
And our age. I'm not saying to give the age away because I still don't tell people how old I am.
Okay.
Right? I still hold it close, and I tell them when they graduate, right? Because we're relatively young. But like, why can't you say, yeah, my name's Varrell, I'm from Brooklyn. My favorite 3 activities are basketball, cooking, and taking long walks with my dog, right? Now the questions come. Oh, who's your favorite team? Los Angeles Clippers. What kind of dog do you have? Pit bull. What do you like to cook? Barbecue. And then who knows where it goes and what connects with somebody in the room who you haven't built that big relationship with. Give them something about yourself. They will share everything with you.
Right.
And then it becomes something natural. Like, don't assume that because you don't look like them or you're not where they're from, that you guys don't have something in common. Right? It could be something as simple as, what's your favorite TV show? Everyone watches a little bit of TV, even if you don't watch it all the time. But if you say Law and Order SVU, someone's going to jump up and talk about Olivia or Stabler. Yeah. And then next thing you know, you've made a connection with somebody that you didn't think you could make a connection with.
I would say I started watching Pretty Little Liars because of the middle school kids that I taught. Like, but you got to watch it. I'm like, all right, I'll watch it. And then I just...
And they probably loved that you watched it.
Yeah.
And you were able to have some talking points with some kids. And you started that job mid-year.
Yeah.
So it was important for you to build relationships because they were probably resentful that their teacher who was there before was no longer there.
Right.
And was like, oh, we're going to give her hell. We're going to make her quit so our other teacher can come back.
They almost had me. I made it. All right. Thank you so much, B, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. See you soon.